coming to you on Sunday night, June 8th, after a fun day with the granddaughter. So I don't even know where to begin. She did a video earlier, and I didn't do it as a live. I did it, well, we did it live, but I did it as a private group because she seemed like she was pretty wired. So she got to be a little chatty, and I'm not sure if I'm going to release it or not. If you're super interested, let me know, and maybe I'll take a vote and we'll see. It's not like she said anything inappropriate. She was just like, I don't know, 7-year-old exuberance. She's always a hoot to work with, but anyway, she's sleeping over again tonight. She doesn't usually stay over on Sunday nights, but school's over now, so she's staying over another night. So what I'm going to do tonight is a little bit of what she and I did. So you'll get the gist of it even if you don't see the Riley's little bit of crafting video. I am going to use the beautiful butterflies. And I haven't forgotten about those of you who are following my travels with Where in the World is Late Night Lori and commenting. I still have the list of those who responded to do my Wheel of Names and award a free gift. So it's going to be this stamp set, just so you know. I haven't forgotten. Hopefully I'll do it within the next day or two. It's always a juggling thing with me. So, get one thing done and then have 5 other things that I need to do. And I wonder how I ever worked full time because, I've been retired for a year already now. It's crazy. So anyway, we're doing the beautiful butterflies. And I am kind of focusing on Berry Burst. We've got great new colors. There's Strawberry Slush, Timid Tiger, Darling Duckling, Cloud Cover, and Secret Sea. I had a blank there for a second. So I'm going back to some of the old core colors. I know there's a lot of focus on the new ones and even, the ones from last year that are still carrying over. So we've got Pretty in Pink and Peach Pie and Shy Shamrock and Summer Splash and Petunia Pop. So those are 10 colors that a lot of people are focusing on. I'm going to an older one. And how I chose my color palette was from the color coaches that Stampin' Up! Provides. So I thought I would try a Shy Shamrock, Calypso Coral, and some Timid Tiger. You don't see a marker here for Timid Tiger, my alcohol marker, my Stampin' Blondes, but you'll understand why when we start working on what we're going to make. So I have a card base that's 8.5 by 5.5. I've scored it at 4.25. I have some beautiful bokeh that is Berry Burst. There are also some different colors in here, Balmy Blue, Calypso Coral. It's in this pack of paper here. And Daffodil Delight and Fresh Freesia. But I'm going with the Berry Burst, of course. And I just cut this down to 4 inches by 5.5. And I'm going to put it just kind of flush on the card. This is 4.25, so when I cut this down to 4, I've got this little border here. We'll see where we go with that. And then I took another piece of Timid Tiger and I ran it through my embossing folder without the die. So this is a hybrid embossing folder, if you're familiar with those. Let me just pull out the dies here. Where there are more, trust me, where you can actually run the die through the embossing folder at the same time as you emboss it. So this set of dies, the Beautiful Butterflies dies, has one die that there's a track. You'd put your paper in here, close it, and then flip it over so your cutting edge is down, and run it through your embossing machine. And I usually do the fold first. Sometimes I will stray from that and do a side with the spine, but I typically try to do the fold first. That will protect it from getting broken going through the pressure of the machine. All right. I did not use it as a hybrid tonight. I just used it for the border. So let me just show you. And I didn't run it through just because I figure people know how to use the embossing machine. So I ran it through like that, and then I cut it down to my 5.5. And then I cut it off at like 2 inches. I had a scrap, so I just trimmed it down because there was a little border on there that didn't emboss with the design. So I don't know if I want that or if I want this. And I'll tell you why. Let me get this out of the way. And hopefully my pile of things that I did put away that has grown again, hopefully they won't topple over. And I'm going to put these out of the way as well. We'll come back to those because I've got 2 of those dies out here, and you'll see why in a minute. So the reason why I'm not sure how I want my designer series paper to line up is because I want to use these metallic textures rub-ons because I like this design, and I thought with the bokeh paper that the rub-off would be kind of cool. So I'm going to use the gold sheet. And I'll just take one of these out of here. I think that's just one. And I'm going to go ahead and just use my big scissors and cut this whole section off because I want to make sure that it's long enough. And we're going to go here. I think I'm going to cut it. We'll go right about to there. Now, I have not used these rub-offs with Riley yet. I think she'll really enjoy them, though. So that might be something she and I do in the coming days. Who knows? All right. So how these work is, I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. You peel off the backing, okay? And you are left with the spotted design. You should be able to see that on camera. And I am just going to lay this along the edge where I want it. And it's a little tacky. I think that's pretty close to where I want it. And then you just rub. And I don't know if it's from the heat of your fingers or the pressure. I don't need to know, I guess. It just works. And we should be able to peel off that top, and now I have an area that looks like it's embossed, but I didn't have to get out my heating tool. I didn't have to get out any Versamark or my embossing buddy. I didn't have to get out my heat gun. It looks like I've embossed without all of that effort. All right. So when I put this here, again, I did that because I thought it looked cool with the bokeh. Okay. So when I put this here, if I have that lined up, do we want it like so, or do I want to have it in a little bit so we have more border over here? Excuse me. So I think what I'll do is I'll trim a little bit more off of this because it's going to be covered anyway. I'm going to take off I'll take off an inch. Ish. All right. So we can kind of decide as we piece this together. All right. So if I put this over here, oh, well, that was silly because now I don't have the bokeh border here. Well, sometimes that happens. So let's just cut another strip. I was just not thinking. But that's what happens when we craft at 11:30 at night. So if I put this here now, and let me burnish this so it lays a little flatter for us. So if I burnish that, put this here, have this one over here, and then put our butterfly on, our butterfly strip. I kind of like that actually because it breaks up the colors. So I'm going to set that aside because we're going to finish that in a little bit. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use these two butterfly stamps from the set. So I'm using this one and this one. And we're going to use some StazOn. Now, normally I wouldn't use StazOn on my photopolymer because it stays on and it stains them, but I'm all right with that. StazOn is probably one of my favorite inks because it smells like almonds. But we're going to stamp this on here. And then we're going to clean it pretty quickly when we're done. So I'm going to stamp this on here. And I'm holding it here because I want that StazOn to transfer. Now StazOn is a solvent-based ink. So it'll come off like if I mess that up, I could use an alcohol wipe and I could fix it. I could clean that right off of there. All right. I'm happy with that. So excuse me. So I'm not going to do that, but I could. All right. So let's ink this little puppy up. I could probably stand to re-ink my StazOn, but I think it's still doing pretty good. All right, so I'm just going to hold this on for just a few seconds, and then I carefully just kind of peel it off so that I don't smear it as I'm removing my block because it's sticky, so it kind of hangs on there. So I'm just going to peel it off. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this cover back on. This will dry out pretty quickly, so you want to make sure that you keep that cover that comes with it. It even says on here, do not discard. I don't know if you can see that. But it does want you to keep that because otherwise it'll dry out because this doesn't seal super tight. And then I store it upside down so that the ink is settling onto that pad that's upside down. Okay. So with these now, I'm going to leave them on the white piece just so you can kind of see how it works here. But you can see these two little pieces here. This is not regular acetate, although it might work with regular acetate. I actually have some shrinky dink sheets from who knows when. I've had them for a long time, but you can get them at probably any kind of variety store or craft store. And I put a note on here that one of the last times I did this, I did them at 325 degrees. I didn't notice that earlier when Riley and I were doing this, but we used our heat gun. So in the past, I've actually done them in my toaster oven and just watched them. You put them in for just a couple of minutes and you can watch them crinkle all up and then go flat. So it's actually pretty cool. And we're going to see that using the heat gun. All right. Let me put that out of the way. But I want to clean off my photopolymer stamps. So I am using my StazOn cleaner and we're just going to put that on there because that will dissolve some of that ink. And then I'm just going to dab that off of my StazOn cleaner. So it's just StazOn cleaner there. And then I'm going to rinse these under the sink quick. Hang on. All right, so StazOn does stain a little bit. So you can see here, I hope I don't drip, but you can see where there's still some darkness on there, but it doesn't affect your stamp. So as long as you clean it off pretty quickly, hello, Colleen, as long as you clean off that StazOn pretty quickly, you're fine. You don't want it to deteriorate your stamp, so if you left it on too long, it might affect the effectiveness of your stamp. So we've got Versamark, we've got StazOn on some shrinky dink sheets. Colleen, that's where we're at. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of these alcohol markers and I'm going to add some color. Now, because StazOn is a solvent-based ink, you need to be really careful when you use your alcohol blends because you can smear the color. All right. So what I do is I'm going to use the bullet tip and I'm just going to do some tapping to add some color in here. All right. And in the bigger areas, I can probably just color, but I want to be careful, okay? And I'm not going to color the whole thing on the butterfly because that'll take some time. But I want to at least show you kind of how this works. All right, so let's put a little bit more over here. And I think we'll add some of the Shy Shamrock. And again, I'm using the bullet point rather than the paintbrush side. This is a little bit lighter, so I'm not sure how it'll look when we're done, but we're gonna go with it, all right? So if I were to smear this around, I would affect the black lines. So that's why I'm just kind of tapping it on there so that I'm not dissolving. That stays on, okay? And then I probably could have die cut this before I started coloring, but it's alcohol, so it should dry just fine. And I'm going to add just a little bit more color with, whoops, with the Calypso Coral. All right. And I think what I'll do for this card is I'll just color this one so you don't have to be bored watching me finish the whole thing. The lighter colors sometimes don't work with this. I have tried it before, and the lighter colors kind of get lost because these get so much smaller. But I have found that when I just dot my alcohol blends on here, I get a better color than if I like draw, okay? Because I think it just leaves a little bit more ink behind. All right. And then I think I'm just going to put a little bit more Shy Shamrock right here. All right. And hopefully I won't mess it up when I go cut it out. All right, so I'm going to set this one off to the side. I will color this later, and I'll post a picture on my Facebook page. All right, so let's get our little Betsy out, my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And we just need the base plate, a cutting plate, and I try to always use the same cutting plate until it kind of like, I don't want to look at it anymore. And then I try to use my clearer one, the one that I haven't used for the cutting edge to cut into, as my top plate. And I label mine as the top plate too for both my big machine, the one that I call my Bossy Bessie, and my mini one, so that when I have people over to do classes, they usually will be pretty good about paying attention to this being the top plate. All right, I am going to then take this die and line it up here, and we'll taper down so that she doesn't slide too much. I guess I have to move it because I was hanging over the edge. And then I'm just going to put my sandwich together. It's been a while since I've talked about my sandwich, but I have my base plate to one edge. My first cutting plate I have in about maybe 1/2 inch, and then my top cutting plate I have back toward the top, so that when they go through the machine, there's not so much bulk all at once. All right, so let's go ahead and run this through. And here's our little piece. So I'm going to use that piece of washi tape over again, but I'm going to get this out of the way since I'm not going to cut. Well, I could cut this other one right now. You don't mind if I just cut this, and I'll color this one later, but at least I'll have it cut out ready to go. So I'll just kind of line that up there. I think that should be good, except that I moved it. should be good. All right. So that little, and this does feel pretty much like just a regular window sheet. So I'm just going to try it with one of our regular window sheets. You know, there's probably nothing special with it being Shrinky Dink material. You're probably just paying for it to say it's Shrinky Dink material. So I'm going to set that off to the side so I can work with that later. We'll get this out of the way. And then we're going to create a little bit of magic. I'm getting my heat gun. I'll get this debris out of the way. And then I need my little tweezers. And what I'm going to do here is heat up the gun. And then I'm just going to use, these are the reverse tweezers. It doesn't really matter what you use, just something so that you can hold it down. And we're going to heat it up. And maybe I should put it on a piece of paper. I don't think it'll stick to my glass, but you know, I've never tried it, so who knows. I'll go like this. I know this will work fine. All right, so let's go ahead and hold this down again. And let's watch this hopefully work beautifully. Takes a little bit for it to heat up. Now it looks like it's getting all crazy on itself. And it's gonna hopefully flatten out in a second here. And look at that. All right, so it's pretty warm. But I am making my own little embellishment. All right, so this is the shiny side. And this, let's see if I can get it flipped over. This is the side that I colored on. All right. So I will actually end up putting that side down, but you can see here it doesn't show quite so well, but hopefully you can see how pretty that is. All right. But I like it better on this side because you've got the depth of the thickness from that acetate once it melted. All right. So when Riley and I were doing this earlier, we punched a hole in these because we thought we might put it on like a piece of jewelry for her. And we didn't color that whole butterfly. We just put some stripes on it. So that's why there's a little dot there, because that's a hole. All right. So what I will end up doing then is probably making a couple more of these and adding them as embellishments to my card with whatever little sentiment. Here's just a little sentiment piece that I have here. So if I'm going to put a little sentiment on here, that's going to be my card. So it could be, you know, maybe I just want to use those two and then find some other dot embellishments. Okay. So, I mean, we could do this as a happy birthday card or time to celebrate, almost anything. So that's basically my card layout. Just a couple of easy strips. The paper's doing most of the work, but just a fun little Shrinky Dink project there that I think is just, it's fun to do something a little different. Okay. So Colleen, what do you think? Hopefully you're still there and not locked out somehow, but let me know if you like it. And if you do, well, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, I think, Colleen, you're probably subscribed. But go ahead and subscribe. Get the notifications. I would love it if you would share this with people that you like to craft with. So if you're on the replay, there you go. All right. Beautiful bokeh, beautiful butterflies, some berry burst and companion colors. That's all I've got. Yeah, aren't they cute, Colleen? I think they're adorable. And Riley had fun making them as well. So I will put this all together probably tomorrow because it's almost midnight where I'm at. And I'm sure Riley will get me up early in the morning. So I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for stopping in, Colleen. Until next time, happy crafting.